Assalamu alaikum. This is a short video just for parents, inshallah. Christmas and parenting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So, I just wanted to share something that, and in the past 2 months, I haven't gone online much, on Instagram, that is. Me and my wife opened up this academy. So it's called the Quran Academy. And one of the things we did is, other than the hifth and Islamic studies and Arabic language, one of the things we do is we have these assemblies, we have these classes, right? And the aim is to make sure that our youth, they understand not only the text, but also the context. And the only way you're going to teach really a personal relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via His Quran is by making sure that the context is applied to the text itself. So what we've tried to do is, for example, during Halloween, we addressed, superstition, and we addressed what it means to basically see the majority of people practice a certain kind of celebration that is antithesis and is not in line with our religion. And so I wanted to share this with some of the parents because some of you asked to share some of the kind of things we're going to discuss in the Quran Academy, and for that reason I'm on this screen. So there's 3 main points I want to mention. It's really for fellow parents. So if you think, I don't have no kids, then call your mum and dad or something, I don't know. But the thing is we want to address, like, how do you deal with it? As a parent, you have your child running up to you and saying, I can't wait until the Christmas party. Mom, Dad, can I go to the Christmas party? They're actually excited about celebrating the idea or the nativity play, excited about a nativity play or party in relation to, that entertains the idea that God has a son. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. And so as parents, we find ourselves in a difficult situation, because in the schools they have nativity plays. They're teaching them about Santa Claus and Father Christmas and Saint Nicholas and and all of these things, right? And so I wanted to give some advice to fellow parents on how perhaps we could tackle this. And some of you might have some questions, and you're welcome to, for the 20-30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes that I want to be online before I escape. So there's 3 major points, perhaps 4, but 3 main points I can think of. One is the Fitri perspective. The second is let's say the discussion on emulation and copying another person. And that's one perspective, like the social perspective, you could say. So there's a Fitri perspective and there's a social perspective. Another one is in relation to, what else is there? Well, let's deal with these 2, and then the rest will come, inshallah. So the Fitri perspective, I think, is the most interesting of all. So what you need to do is what I'm going to do in our workshop in the Quran Academy is, I'm going to go onto the board, we're going to get all the kids to sit around, and we're going to tell them, what is Christmas about? What do you think Christmas is about? And we're going to do this process of gathering and sorting and elimination. This is a form of hasr and qasr, we call it. Okay, so we'll ask the kids, what do you think Christmas is about? And they'll say, it's about snow, so you write down snow. They write down, it's about winter, so you write down winter. They write down leaves have all fallen down, it's there's no leaves on the trees, all right, okay, you write that down. They'll tell you it's about it's about roast chicken or roast turkey, right? So you write down roast turkey and meats. They'll tell you it's about Santa Claus. All right, you write down Santa Claus. What you'll realize straight away, if you really think deeply about this, brothers and sisters, and I think this is one of the problems, that parents and us adults generally are not thinking deeply, and so we get caught with our children in a way where we don't know how to deal with things, and that's because we haven't thought about these things ourselves and we take them for granted. So what you do is you narrow down the fact that, isn't there a natural inclination, a fitri disposition, okay, a fitri disposition that makes us all gravitate towards liking a particular time period or a season, that we face. So, for example, summer. We all like summer. Okay, it's not to do whether you're a Hindu, whether you're a Christian or a Jew, or whether you're Western or whether you're whatever it is. We all enjoy summer. We all have this affinity to summer. We like the nice weather. The idea of, during the summer, it's just nice walking outside, even if you're not doing anything. It's just nice walking outside and having an ice cream or just having a cold drink, right? So this is something that is natural to us, that human beings having an affinity, a natural affinity towards the seasons of our lives, whether it's the summer, whether it's the autumn, okay, whether it's the spring, okay, whether it's the winter. All of these periods of times that we witness are part of what is known as, so for example, the signs of the Quran are called al-ayatu al-Qur'aniyya. Yeah, so these are the Quranic signs. And now another sign is al-ayatu al-kawniyya, the universal signs of the creation. And these are signs for us as well. These are illustrations. These are reminders, okay, of Allahu Azza wa Jal. So it's actually, if you think about it, if you suppress that feeling that your child has, an affinity towards summer, an affinity towards winter, you yourself are allowing them to naturally think that winter is owned by Coca-Cola, Santa Claus, Christmas trees, presents, and all of these things. Do you understand? Because you're linking the fitra, which is human feeling that we have towards winter, and I'll explain that in a second, right? This what we call winter solstice, or a festive feeling during winter, right? Why do we feel like that? That's something we should explain, that actually as human beings we all naturally feel like that. Just like we all feel something during summer, and we're not necessarily, behaving like people in, Ayia Napa, or people who are going to, Madrid, or people going to Spain for holidays or whatever, right? We're not behaving like that, but we do have which brother and sister, would not like to go, to the canal or go on a nice boat ride with their children on a nice summer's day, all right, to have cold drinks. It's a beautiful thing. So we have a natural affinity to summer, and we shouldn't deny that. What we should deny is the fahisha that comes with summer, which is people not dressing appropriately, people being heedless, people being licentious, people being lewd, people being drunk more openly, and all of these things. But the summer itself is a beautiful thing. It depends how you look at it. So for example, comes to mind, I swear this was supposed to be a 20-minute video, and because things come to my mind that might be interesting to you, I thought I'll just mention it and go for a little bit longer. So for example, sunflowers, right? Sunflowers in pre-Islamic times, they used to call them Ubadu Shams or Abadu Shams. They used to call them sun worshippers. They used to call sunflowers sun worshippers. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Right? Obviously, all we know that, we know سَبَّحَ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We know that which is in the heavens and the earth does tasbih and glorification and of Allah Azza wa Jal, freeing him from any imperfection, and denouncing any form of imperfection of the Creator. And all of the living creatures, they do this in some form, in their own way. So in pre-Islamic times, they used to call sunflowers Abadu Shams or Ubadu Shams. I can't remember. Like I said, this is not a planned video. I'm just talking to you as whatever comes to me. And they changed that to Zahratu Shams. Yeah, they call it Zahratu Shams, the flower of the sun. Yeah, because the meaning before didn't agree with the perspective of Tawheed. It didn't agree with the sound, objective perspective that you're looking at the world as creation. Okay, and you can never make the creation worship the creation. Rather, the makhluk must worship the khaliq, right? So, can you see that a simple thing as a sunflower was called a sun worshipper, and then the Muslims, they changed it to a different word, Zahratu Shams, with a name that is more agreeable and makes more sense to our beliefs. So, as you can see, how you look at summer, how you look at winter, requires the right perspective. Now, if we, as I've said, all of us like summer, right? All of us will like some aspects of summer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Similarly, in winter, what you'll notice is a few things that have been happening for time and immemorial. They've been happening for centuries and decades and centuries and more decades, where during the winter, people tend to wear more sheep's clothes or fleece, or they start wearing thicker clothes. Now, is that part of any religion? No. You know, Santa Claus wearing the big fluffy coat and big hat and everything else. If you think about it, why that resonates with them, even though obviously we don't follow or believe or acknowledge any of that. But what I'm trying to say is that this idea of wearing, more thicker clothes during the winter days and feeling snug, that is just a human thing. It's a fitri thing. It's something that Allah put in us as part of our disposition, right? It's not to do with Christmas. It's just to do with being human, and more precisely, being a human being that was created by Allah Azza wa Jal in these signs that are around us, that are supposed to be means of remembrance. So winter is a means of tadhkira, it's a dhikra, it's a remembrance, it's a means of remembrance, not a means of distraction. And unfortunately, as you can see, that during Christmas, even for non-Muslims, it's not really about religion, it's not about family, it's ever increasingly about consumerism and the god of consumerism, and buying and being overdrawn on your credit card and all of these things. Do you see? So to look at it, right? Remember, this is just winter. I'm not talking about Christmas yet. Just winter. So that's already a difference that we naturally see, right? Snow, subhanallah, the fact that every snowflake, right, if they analyze it, it's like every snowflake, when you analyze it, it's a beautiful symmetrical pattern, and they're different from each snowflake. Shouldn't we be explaining that to our kids? But instead, snow is connected with Christmas, when snow should be connected to Islam. Snow should be connected to the seasons of Allah. The seasons of Allah. Because the seasons represent often Allah makes the analogy of life and death and being resurrected, and how, if you look at winter, you could never imagine summer could exist. When all the leaves fall off, you can't expect those luscious green leaves to emerge, but they do. وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى. And yet at the same time, if you looked at summer, sometimes you'll think, I can't imagine ever all of these trees being stripped of every single leaf and every sign of life, and yet they are. And these are the parables and these are the examples that Allah Azza wa Jal uses. And so we should be utilizing the season to explain the signs of Allah Azza wa Jal. Are we doing that? Or we're just saying Christmas is kufr, Christmas is this, Christmas is that, making it like that when a child is having to deny his natural interest and liking and affinity with the winter, the winter season, not all the way it's been explained. That's a different thing. That's to do with another way of life. That's not the Islamic perspective. So unfortunately, that's one of the things that we have. Another thing that happens in winter that's got nothing to do with Christmas is, the nights are long. And it becomes nighttime. At 4:00, it's pitch black. Okay, it's nighttime. So if you imagine 1,000 years ago, if you climbed up on a hill, you would see a beautiful, town where all the lamps would be placed and all the lamps would be inside the houses, where everybody's sitting in front, obviously not in front of their widescreen TVs, not in front of their heaters, but in front of their lamps, in front of their coal fires, in front of their wood fires, trying to stay warm. So this idea of huddling and coming at home, being inside your home and huddling together with your family, that's not Christmas. That's winter. That's al-ayatul kawniyya. That is the sign of Allah Azza wa Jal, of how He can make us, how a season can drive us out of the house and want us to be outside every day, like in summer, and how it can make us rush home to be underneath our blankets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending us seasons that, that really drive us from home and outside, that drive us to be awake and then fall asleep. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. When you think about the moon and the sun, how they almost dictate when we sleep and when we wake. But Allah is the one who's dictating them. So, yeah, exactly. So when you look down at the city, you see a beautiful town with lamps and fires and everything, and people walking around, with lamps even in the streets, and that was a beautiful sight, when you have darkness and you have candles everywhere. Again, this wasn't, we're not talking about Roman Catholicism, we're not talking about being inside a church. We're talking about in every time before all the technology we saw, that there were lamps, in the dark winters, and people used to huddle around fires. People used to eat more richer food during that time. They used to eat dried meats. They used to eat more particular kinds of foods that were in season. And if you notice all the Christmassy foods that are out there, my legs are hurting. If you see all the Christmassy foods that are out there, a lot of them are actually, just winter season. But again, it's been ingrained in the mind that this is to do with Christmas. This is to do with Christmas, when it's actually to do with winter. It's to do with the season of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is, unfortunately, what we need to deprogram and disconnect. The fact that you see snow and think Christmas, the fact that you see trees stripped of leaves and people think Christmas, the fact that people see, families coming and spending more time with each other, that's always happened, because in the winter we're forced to be more at home and huddle together with our family and our children. That is part of Islam, because that is part of the Fitra. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullu mawludin yuladu ala al-fitra," that every single person is born on the Fitra of Islam, and it's their mothers and fathers that make them Christians and Jews and Zoroastrians. So that's why, subhanAllah, some part of us is making our children deny their basic Fitra and affinity with different seasons that Allah Azza wa Jal created, because we're trying to reject Christmas and we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So what you need to do is you need to start drawing interest into this season, and think that Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who told us, that look at the signs, sabbaha ma fi samawati wal ard, and siru fil ard, and traverse the world. One of the things that will happen when you traverse the world is that you will see various continents and various temperatures and weather, weather and various climates. You will see various kinds of winters and different summers. And yet we don't connect the creation to Allah Azza wa Jal, in the sense that Allah is the creator of these things. When a child looks at a beautiful tree, we don't say, how beautifully did Allah create that tree? They just say, how beautiful is that tree? Yet when we look at phones, we think, how good Sony made that phone. Look how good Apple made that phone. Look how good Android made that phone. It's competition between Android and Apple. There's no competition when you look at the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. And all of it says, if you look deeply into it, all of them have written on them, made by Allah. Allah made the sun. Allah made all the seasons. And yet our children are made to look at phones and things and become appreciative of human beings and human manufacture. And even though Allah Azza wa Jal even taught us that, الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ, that He even gave us the ability to utilize tools and language to, and now more sophisticated, algorithms and programming languages. All of those things could not come if Allah did not allama bil qalam, if Allah Azza wa Jal didn't teach us to be able to convey and understand knowledge in the way that we do. So look carefully at the winter and distill it and separate it from Christmas, because this winter is actually an amazing time to explain Islam to your children. Okay, don't have them denying their fitra, a natural affinity to every different season that they witness, right? And make them think that, not enjoying and appreciating and being amazed by the winter season is somehow all to do with Christianity, or all to do with, shirk, right? Shirkmas, yeah? Or whatever it's called, right? Try to separate the misapplication from the correct application of looking at the seasons of Allah Azza wa Jal. The seasons of Allah is what we need to demonstrate. Like as I've said, look at the snow particles of, each speck, how that they're symmetrical, and they have a beautiful design, and each one is unique. Just go through these things with your children. Okay, so so we've talked about wearing thicker clothing. We've talked about, often you'll see that clothing has a lot more like animal skin, or something like that. You see the fact that people are eating more Moorish kind of like rich foods. That's also natural. This is something that people have been doing during the winter since time immemorial. The fact that people huddle together in the warmth inside their homes, that is something that has happened before Christianity. The fact that people come together, and therefore spend time as families and have lamps that light up all the houses at night. If you think, you close your eyes and you imagine all the houses all lit up with a warm glow inside their house, you should not imagine Christmas. You should imagine that these are al-ayatu al-kawniyya, that Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us of how during each season, how we behave differently because of the seasons that He has sent us. Yeah, so this is a fitri disposition that honestly we need to explain to our children, and this is one of the things I'll be doing within the next few days with multiple classes in the Quran Academy, that me and my wife ran, and we founded within East London, within Tower Hamlets. So the thing is so that's one perspective. Then the second perspective is, have I covered enough of the Christmas versus winter? There's loads. You'll realize there's so many things that are just to do with winter. They are synonymous with winter, but they've become synonymous with Christmas. And what we need to do is we need to reclaim. We have greater right. Yeah, نحن أحق منهم. We have a greater right to take a sign, and take an appreciation and a kind of remembrance in these winter time and in summertime and all of these things than anyone else, because what we are looking through the world through the lens of which is connected to Allah Azza wa Jal, i.e. through His Quran. Then there's the second issue, which is subhanallah. Allah bless you, sister. This is and make it easy for you. Yasarallahu laki. My daughter comes home from reception singing Christmas songs, and she's confused about who Jesus is. It's very hard to explain. So this is the second point, the Islamic nativity story. So we should be using this time to explain the story of Isa alayhi salam. A good time to explain the Trinity and its fallacy of having three persons. The fallacy of this idea of three unlimited infinite beings being separate but one at the same time. This is a very, very good time to discuss this with our children. Do you see? And yes, some of these things, unfortunately, as much as I can give you fatwa, I just want to give you da'wah. Fatwa is actually, it's impermissible for us to subject our children to, when they are so indiscriminate on information that enters their mind when they're young. When they're older, it's different. even if they're taught Big Bang Theory, if they're taught evolution or superstring theory, we can then explain our point of view, even though some of the points they're discussing on a primary school level is value-based, and it should not be value-based. See, Christmas and Jesus and all of these things, they're value-based. Our children go to get an education, and values are supposed to come from family, but unfortunately with muscular liberalism and everything else, this is what unfortunately our children are facing. So my advice, sister, is do what I decided to do, which is, if there's something being taught in the school, and we can't change the school because this is a non-Muslim country, and that's, we, as our strap line for the Quran Academy is that we want to grow flowers that bloom in the concrete. But the only way they can bloom in the concrete is if you first accept that our children are growing in the concrete, and they're not growing in a congenial, comfortable environment. It's that idea that, we're British, everything's all right, we're just, we're like everyone else, etc. It's that kind of, way that is confusing our children from the distinction of what it means to be a Muslim. Do you see? Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." That whoever emulates a people, he is from them. And for that reason, we're supposed to make an effort to make the differences, not just on a theological point of view, which is the difference between false gods, and our God, the actual true God. Of course, we should make that distinction, but we should also make that distinction in our practices, in our ibadat, and also to do with our social practices as well. We need to make sure that those distinctions are being made. Let me get a pillow, bottom's hurting. Right? So we need to make that distinction with our children, when it comes to our conception of Isa alayhi salam, and his nativity, the Islamic nativity story. So the two things I'm discussing with the kids at the Quran Academy, alhamdulillah, we've had about 64 students in about a month that have joined, pupils, I think ranging from 4 to 16 years old. So one of the things we're going to teach them is the Christmas versus winter. Yeah, and winter, as I've said, we got to own that. We got to reclaim that, because that is something that is sent from Allah Azza wa Jal. How dare we take a blessing such as a time and a sign such as winter and turn that season into a means of distraction instead of remembrance. Second thing is, as I've mentioned, is to do with giving the sound understanding of what Isa alayhi salam's story actually is, and discussing the false narratives that surround this issue. The third thing is about emulating people without emulating the practices of people where those practices don't have a sound basis. Okay, now they don't have a sound basis. Okay, and that's the most important thing. I mean, I'll sit with the kids and I'm gonna say something like, "Let's have whoever's wearing a green hat is the best day, yay!" And the kids are gonna think that's silly. You just made that up just now. How can you celebrate something that's made up? Okay, so that's so arbitrary. And that's how you have to train the kids to understand that we only celebrate things that are real. I'm afraid not, you see, sister. It's not the same thing as my institute. See, my institute, I can teach classes and we can live stream and put up clips. But out of respect to the parents, you can't really walk into a classroom of children, safeguarding and all these issues. You can't just walk in with a camera, even if you're not going to record them. It has its own complications, and I am planning within about 2 months. By about early March, we're going to be doing massive assemblies instead, where we invite all the parents and children to attend, even if they're not part of our academy. And it's going to be a whole big do, inshallah. It's going to be a big, theatrical thing, right, that we're going to do, inshallah. We don't have the money for it yet, so unfortunately can't do that just yet. But yeah, so these are the things to talk to your kids about. Separating winter from Christmas. Secondly, because I could go into things, any fiqh questions, can you just DM them, inshallah, and I will respond after the class, inshallah, just so I can, if you don't mind, stay on topic. Second thing is, I'm taking my mufti hat off. Yeah, I'm off duty. So what was I going to say? This is the issue. So yes, there's the proper nativity story of Isa alayhi salam and a false narrative of the Trinity. The third thing is emulating for the sake of it. Just, you know, you got to teach your children to respect their own minds and to have independent thinking. You have to show them that they should be the kind of guy or girl that when their friends say, last one up the stairs is a stupid, banana or whatever, that they don't run up and go, oh yeah, I don't want to be a... I didn't agree to the game, They should be walking up the stairs slowly. That's what they should be doing. They should be walking up the stairs slowly. This is the problem. You think that's silly, right? Someone saying, last one up the stairs is a so-and-so, and everybody joins in because they don't want to be that so-and-so, right? And you think that's so childish. Many adults on Instagram are doing this every day. Last one who reaches 30 without a 40k job in the city is a loser. Last one who doesn't have a very nice car by 20 is a loser. Last one to, you can say that that's silly and childish, but you'll see adults are playing, with their toys as well. Just the grown-up versions of the same kind of, we call it the rat race. Okay, so point number 1, the Fitri angle. Point number 2, the nativity, proper Quranic perspective of Isa alayhi salam angle. Point number 3, the social angle in terms of following practices of other people. It should be like, you should teach your children. If you say, oh, it's wrong to just follow people and copy people, you should ask the child, to make them think critically. You should say, then why do you pray? Ask young Fatima, oh Fatima, why do you copy your mum how she prays? She's going to go, oh, you're right. I shouldn't copy people. You say, because your mother is praying in accordance to how the Prophet prays, because we believe that we can prove that he's the Prophet of God. That's not the same thing as just emulating your mother. Okay, so that's the emulation angle. Are there any more that I wanted to mention? Again, I'm mentioning to you, brothers and sisters, if you have fiqh questions that are unrelated to the topic, please DM them, and you'll get an answer later, inshallah. So there's the Fitri angle, dealt with that. We've dealt with the textual angle. We've dealt with the social angle. There was one more. Consumerism. That's the last one. The god of consumerism. So we need to teach our children, like the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ليس الغنى عن كثرة المال عن كثرة العرض. Ghina, wealth, is not the increase and to have lots of arad. Arad is things, wealth that is seen and shown to people. ليس الغنى عن كثرة العرض ولكن الغنى غنى النفس. But rather, true wealth, the Prophet ﷺ says, is the wealth of the nafs. It's the wealth that you have inside your chest. This is true wealth. There are people who are sleeping in a house that has 10 rooms, 15 supercars outside, but they stay awake at night looking, and in here they feel a squeeze. They have more space than all of us, and in that chest they feel a squeeze. Okay? In the day they have to show they don't have that, but at night they feel that existential squeeze of there's no purpose, no real aim in life. Okay? And some of us are living in very small council flats or very small rooms, but we have the space in here. We are the spaciousness here. We don't feel tight because our hearts are wide and possessing of iman, and for that reason we feel like we don't feel as trapped. Whereas someone who has space outside of themselves, they feel constricted here. Whereas some of us might be constricted outside, but we feel wealthy here. And this is the greatest wealth. This square space here, this is the greatest wealth that you can have. So consumerism needs to be addressed. Yeah, and obviously it happens in Eid and other stuff, but I'm talking about Christmas at the moment. So that needs to be addressed as well. In terms of explaining to children. You got non-Muslim kids as well. They're like, their mum gets a 16-year-old boy a Nintendo Switch, He's like, Nintendo Switch, get out of here. I wanted a PlayStation 4. I wanted, this and that. The love is only shown through what are you going to buy me? Do you see? What are you going to buy me? And this is really sad. This is the mentality. I was going to share a really sad story. I was thinking, shall I share it? All right, I'll share a really sad story, right? I went with some relatives a long time ago, and they took me to a phone shop, and I'm not going to get any more detail about that because I don't want to drag family in, right, or distant relatives, right? These younger, kind of my age, or younger than me, not my age, but younger than me at the time, they took me to a phone shop, and I said, why are we in a phone shop? And they said, oh, we're going to find the phone that we like, that you're going to buy us. And I'm like, what? Me buy you a phone? Why would I buy you a phone? What have you done to deserve a phone? They're like, you're just going to buy it for us. And I thought, wow. Well, let me tell you something. What I'm going to do is, if I say no, you know the old Asian trick, yeah, the old, I don't want to say Bengali, just about, you know what I mean, the old trick of pressurizing to say, oh, you're stingy because you said, you don't want to buy it because you're stingy, right? So I said, look, I'll give £200 to a charity in your name, right? Or I get you nothing. I'll get you nothing, or I'll give £200 to a charity where, they say it's about £1 can feed a family in the third world for a week. So like £200, 52 weeks. Basically, they could live quite well for their standards for about a year. For about a year, they could live off £200 in terms of food. So I'll either give you £200 to a charity in your name, I'll give it to charity, or you get nothing anyway. I'm not getting you the phone. That's what I said to this relative. I said, I repeat, Walaikum Assalam, Akhi Ayman. I said to this relative, I'll give £200 in your name to a charity, right? Or you get nothing. I'm not gonna buy you a phone. You know what he said? May Allah forgive him. He's grown up to be a nice lad now. You know what he said? He said, forget it. Forget it. I don't want to. Can you imagine that, Akhi Ayman? Yeah? That you offer someone, I'll put £200 to charity in your name, but I ain't buying you no phone. So you get nothing, or £200 to someone else. And the boy said, nah, forget it. I don't want nothing. Subhanallah. This is what's wrong with our ummah. This is what's wrong with our ummah. This is what's wrong with our youth. So selfish, so materialistic, that you'd rather not starving people, not get food for a year. It's a lesser concern than you getting enjoyment and luxury for a few days. That phone, you're going to treat it really, we all do that, right? You get this phone and it's like, oh, I got the latest iPhone and it's so special. And about 4 days later, you throw it on the bed, right? And it bounces off your bed and falls on the floor, and you're like, meh. And you don't really care, even though it's a £900, whatever, iPhone X. It's sad. It's so sad that our youth can be so... You know why that is? Because their mentality is so hardwired to their needs, to their need to eat and drink and enjoy and have pleasure. It's hardwired. Do you understand? It's their thinking and their needs. It's just direct. There's no filter of actual ideas that mold and constrain and temper. Do you see? Our desires, our appetites, our motivations. Our aql is supposed to fall on top of our nafs and steer it, put reins on it, right? Like the reins on a reindeer. But reindeers are, flying reindeers aren't real. So the fund would lose value, but the sadaqah would have only increased. Yeah, man, that's the thing. But that's, we don't want to, we're not picking on one person, but that is our situation with the youth, my brother. That if you say to them, one day I'll do it. I'll say, I'll give £50 in your name or you get nothing. Yeah, £50 in your name or you get nothing. So many kids will just say, forget £50 in my name to charity. I don't know, if I'm not going to get it, who cares? If I'm not going to get it, who cares? That is the spirit of Christmas. That is the spirit of, they say, shopping centres and malls are where consumers go to pray, you know. So that they're going there and they're looking at all this, you know. You got to teach them, wal akhiratu khayrun wal akhiratu khayrun wa abqa, wal akhiratu khayrun wa abqa. You know, there's two qualities we taught in the Quran, khair and abqa. So something that usually in this life you'll notice, yeah, things that are really, really expensive are very delicate and can break. Like iPhones, you drop that glass breaks and they charge you for the whole phone, right? It's a rip off. It's a jip. It's a con, right? And things that are not expensive. So if you give your child old Nokia, you know the Nokia that you could throw, you know, and out of a council estate, yeah, out of 12 floors. All right, might not last 12 floors. But honestly, some of these rubber Nokia phones, right, they bounce off, they won't break at all. But it's not very good quality. Do you see? And then you have some things that are, but it will last long. And then you have in this dunya things that, you know, the good, really good things, but they don't last. They're very transient and temporary. You know, you can't hold on to it. By the time you hold it, it's already gone. You know, and you'll notice most of the nice things are very delicate. They don't last long, and all of these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wal akhiratu khayrun wa abqa." That the akhirah is better, so it's the best of everything and better than anything in the dunya. Wa abqa, and lasting. So it's the best and lasting. In this dunya you get best but impermanent and delicate and it will break and not lasting. Or you get lasting but it's not very good. So if someone said to you, here's this rubber Nokia phone from the 1990s, it will never break. You know, you can play Snake all you like. You know, your nephew, he's gonna cry if he sees that phone. So we have to explain to them that this god of consumerism that exists in I hope I'm not boring some of you guys. This is the first time I've done a live stream for a very long time. I just have this hesitation to talking to people on Instagram and social media. I don't know, I know some of you that I'm talking to, but anyway, I don't take to this very naturally, let's just say. I teach, you know, a couple of 100 hours in my institute to a whole classroom, but I don't like sitting in front of a camera, in front of a phone. But anyway, we'll cope. We'll get there. So, right. So, consumerism, we need to explain that. We need to explain that no matter how much you feed yourself, the human body has food for the heart, food for the mind, and food for the soul. Now, some people, they food for the and food for the body. So some people eat and they can have food for the body, no problem. Sometimes you have stimulation of the mind, so you can read works of philosophers, you can read Dostoevsky, you can read Ulysses, you can read Oscar Wilde plays, you can read Chaucer, you can read Wife of Bath's Tale, you can read all sorts, you can read E.M. Forster, you can read you can read novels. This gives you mental stimulation. This is food for the mind. You could read poetry. This is food for the mind. You could have food for the heart. Food for the heart, things that rile up your emotions. Like people watch films, people watch programs, people watch Netflix, people watch all of these things. And this is food for the heart. But none of these things in this world can give you food for the soul except Islam. Al-Islam is the only food for the heart. And sometimes when people feel empty, empty in their heart or soul, whichever you want to call it, but when they feel, that lack of connection with Allah Azza wa Jal, they overeat. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. Let man look and consider his food, Allah says. Some people eat. Think about it, just such a simple act as eating. Some people eat because they can't trust people, and food is the only one you can trust. Yeah, trust me, you'll see some people that say, food is the only thing that never let me down. Hello, this meal never lets me down. People, they let me down. Some people eat because they're trying to bulk up because they feel inadequate about, being thin or skinny. Some people eat less because they think they're too big and they're too small. Some people eat for the taste. Some people eat for the smell. Some people eat for the color. And some people eat just because they're hungry. And some people eat to take energy so that they could worship Allah Azza wa Jal. You see, the paradigm people say is, I work to live, yeah, I don't live to work. None of those are correct for Muslims. We don't live to work, and we won't work to live. We work to live so that we can worship. We sustain life for the sake of worship. Life is only worth living because it is the necessary basis upon which we worship. Do you see? This is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah used to say. He says, only with the sustaining of life is worship possible. Okay? So, people eat for different reasons. And you can eat and you can only fill your stomach. Or people will say, Bismillah, you know. Allahumma at'im man at'amana, wasqi man saqana, you know, waja'alana min al-muslimin. وَجْعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. All of these types of dua, yeah, these things that when you eat and when you think that this food is for energy so I can fulfill my purpose in life, yeah, that is a deeper, meaningful experience of, and it's not just purely the sensorial. So what happens with consumerism is mainly to do with the sensorial experience. Okay, it's when the eyes and the ears and the touch and the taste, all of these senses are disconnected from the heart. As Muslims, we connect them to our belief. What we sense, we connect to our belief. We constantly look at situations and we connect it to our viewpoint about life, our perspective. Do you see? So that's the point I want to make, which is we want to teach children that they shouldn't be hardwired to sensorial pleasures, but rather that senses are used to connect to the heart so that one can connect to their true purpose in life. That is the difference between an animal grazing and eating and defecating and procreating and sleeping, and a human being who transcends that through thought and contemplation and using the means of this dunya as a means of worship. So, I've mentioned quite a few things that to discuss with our children in relation to Christmas, to give you kind of a hint of the kind of workshop that I'm going to do with the kids in our Quran Academy. Number one, there's the Fitri perspective, winter versus Christmas. Number two, I've given the scriptural angle, which is the textual angle, which is to look at the Quran and the true nativity story. Number three, I've given the social angle in terms of man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum. Whoever follows a people is one of them. This idea of not emulating things that have no basis. Then I've gone through consumerism and the consumerist culture. And then there's fifth one, alhamdulillah, I remembered. The last one is social etiquette, because at the end of the day, you live with non-Muslims, and it is something that is a strong thing in our deen, that even if your neighbors are non-Muslim, if they're Christian and they've got Christmas lights and, and reindeers outside their house, in lights and all that sort of stuff, right? That you don't just walk past them and go in, they better not say Merry Christmas to me because I'm going to either say Merry Christmas and I have to do Tawbah when I get home, or, I'm going to say Astaghfirullah and I'm going to run away, okay? Why is it that we have to either be ridiculous people or we become servile, acquiescent, kind of am I using too many long words for Instagram generation, right? Using that sort of language, right, and using that sort of approach. As Muslims, we're thinking people. We think before things happen. That is part of what adab is, by the way. Akhlaq is inner characteristics, and adab is to do with how to deal with social conventions and etiquette. So to know how to deal with every person before you meet them. Protocol. That's what adab actually is. Okay? It's knowing what piece you are on the chessboard in relation to every other piece on the chess table. Right. So, for example, if my neighbor says to me, Merry Christmas, okay, I don't have to say Merry Christmas back. I can say, you have a really good holiday. And you know what? I just had a conversation with my neighbor Sarah, and I had an excellent conversation with her. I had my daughter Maliha, I was saying, look, Auntie Sarah, is outside, and she was talking to my daughter and stuff, and I initiated the discussion. So there's another thing, when someone says to you Merry Christmas and we're like, ugh, and we freak out, that's because we're last. Well, the last person shouldn't the more reward is always the one who initiates, So when I meet non-Muslims, I initiate the discussion. I say, how are you? Oh, are you looking forward? That's the first thing I said. I said, are you looking forward to the time off? For Christmas holidays? She said, oh, I so am. Like, I could do with a break, with the kids and everything else. I just want to be at home. And I said, are you feeling the same way I'm feeling this? I don't know if you guys are feeling the same thing, that you just feel like you're run down and you're slowly running out of energy, and you just want to just climb over that final line of where the Christmas holidays are, so you can actually get some rest and recuperate. You just need time to recuperate. So, I connect on what's common between us, which is that we got all these holidays coming up. We need to rest because we work hard to feed our families, okay? And we need to rest. And so I initiate those discussions. So then obviously that person doesn't think that, even imagine she said at that time, Merry Christmas or have a happy Christmas or whatever, right? Even if I didn't respond in a kind of a positive way, it would be taken in the context of all the rest of the positivity and forthcomingness. Muslims aren't forthcoming. What we do is we hide in the workplace, we hide in college, we hide in university, we hide our religion, and then when someone knocks on our little glass shell, then we freak out. We should be on the forefront. You see, we should say, hey, hello, how are you? When my son walks past my non-Muslim neighbors, I tell him to say, hi, how are you? Have a good weekend. How are you? You all right? Etc., etc. Our elders, if they're non-Muslims and they're elders, they're like our aunties and uncles. There's nothing wrong with calling them auntie, So I might call her Auntie Sarah, I say, oh, look, I talk to my daughter and say, look, Auntie Sarah's here, right? And then they feel, someone you call auntie who isn't your auntie, right? Already that creates a bond, isn't it? An affinity of familial nature. Why shouldn't we be doing that? Why shouldn't we be doing that? So these are the things we need to have, that culture and have that attitude where we're forthcoming, we're on the front foot and not on the back foot. And if someone says, I think, turn back and smile for God's sake, and just say, you have a good holiday. Enjoy your holiday. Have a good break. Have a good rest. Have a good time with your family. Do you see? Because those are the common things we're all going to do. Do you see? If someone says Merry Christmas, you don't have to say, Jesus isn't the Son of God. It may not be the time to bring up that kind of conversation. The time at that time is just, there is a widespread holiday, a national holiday, and all of these sort of things. So there's nothing wrong with saying have a good holiday, have a happy holiday. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you say to someone, God bless you, when you mean may Allah, may God bless you with hidayah, there's nothing wrong with saying that. If someone says bless you, say bless you. There's narrations where the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim were given salam by non-Muslims, and they didn't give assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. They just said salam. Okay? So to be honest with you, the Sahaba replied to non-Muslims in better and nicer and sweeter ways than the Muslims do today. So where's our religiousness? So we need to teach our children social etiquettes so they don't feel pressured into saying, have a Merry Christmas, have a happy Hanukkah, have a happy this, have a happy, festival of light or whatever it is, right? And all of these things. They don't have to do that. Do you understand? We don't have to congratulate, okay, or put or praise acts of worship, that are leading that person to Jahannam. You don't have to. That's not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is just trying to find a way to not hurt that person's feelings so that you can give dawah to them another day. But the problem is that most Mo's who are actually Muhammad and most Shak who are actually Shakils, right? Most of the us acting like Mo's. And because of that, we're not on the forefront of saying that, look, you know what? I like you so much. I want good for you so much. I have love for you as a fellow human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that we have honored the sons of Adam, all of the Bani Adam. So, that I love my neighbor so much. I love my non-Muslim colleagues so much that I wish Islam for them. That's what we should want for them. If you have that mindset that I love you as a fellow human being, as a colleague, that I want Islam for you, then that will naturally contextualize how you treat them always. And another thing, had we in the workplace, so we've explained the children and neighbors, etc., in the workplace, throughout the year, don't your colleagues get sick? Don't your colleagues fall ill? Don't your colleagues, have children, have babies and a newborn or whatever? So many times you had an opportunity to just give them a gift, to give them something. As Muslims, we should be, the Prophet used to give gifts all the time. Sometimes you borrow something from someone else and give a gift to somebody else. He used to give gifts. We're so stingy, and then we're worried about when we say Merry Christmas just because we want to fit in. Again, I'm sorry, on social media, I'm not very good at this. I don't do that whole, I just gonna tell you, that is one of the problems. We spend the whole year going about just making money, and then we're like, oh no, do I have to go to the Christmas party? Why are you crying about about this dilemma of going to the Christmas party? If you every other time visited them when they were sick, or given them a gift when they were sick, or given them a gift anyway, or when you had a child, you gave all your non-Muslim colleagues a gift. When my mother passed away, rahimahullah, this is 3-4 years ago now. When my mother passed away, how many houses here? About 60 or something. Every single house, non-Muslim, Jewish, whatever, every race, every kind of person you can imagine, every kind of non-Muslim you can imagine. I'll leave that to your imagination. And obviously every Muslim, we tried to give out food and things, and say, look, my mum passed away. I just wanted to do something nice, And for the Muslims, we asked them to make dua. And for the non-Muslims, we just wanted to let them know that, this is a time of sorrow for us, and we want to make it a means of sadaqah and generosity. And we want to be generous, and we want to give. That's what my family and all of our sons were dispersed by my dad, and, we went out and we gave out stuff and whatever, right? That should be the attitude. Then when they see you, they feel embarrassed for making out that you are being the alienating one. You are being the one who's pushing them away. You should be the one that draws them close. You shouldn't be the one pushing them away. So there are many ways to say happy holidays, have a good holiday, have a good rest, have a restful holiday. A million other ways of social etiquette, of reciprocating the feeling but not the idea. Reciprocating the sentiment but not the idea. That we need to teach our kids so they can become astute, so they can be, socially capable. Do you know what I mean? And really, kids these days, and youth these days, and generally a lot of Muslims, practicing or non-practicing, honestly, they don't know social etiquette. They don't know how to have a good break, have a good holiday. That's right. So we don't know how to, interact with non-Muslims. Do you understand? You got that weirdo one who's always staring at people, staring at non-Muslim women and men, always staring. Then you got the other type, who thinks that he might catch a disease by just walking past them too close. It's like these two extremes don't need to exist. Okay, we are in a situation where we're going to have non-Muslim neighbors. We live in a non-Muslim country. We should be a means for da'wah, a means of mercy. And really, the akhlaq is so important. Without good akhlaq and without good adab, who would want to know your religion? Who would want to know the deen of Islam? Who would want to know what drives you if you yourself, are not benefiting from your religion, having good akhlaq? So someone says, and they say it from a good point in their heart, a good sentiment, oh, have a good Christmas, have a good thing. And you're like, nah. Like, come on, man. Yeah, liven up, but think as well. Use your brain. Don't just liven up and do something stupid. Use your brain. Say to them, have a good holiday. Have a restful holidays. Say something like that and appreciate them. Show that you appreciate that they exist, that they're there. And then come forward with a non-Muslim should choose this discussion another time. Don't. How do you start an Islamic convo with a non-Muslim? Should you pick and choose who you have it with? Those more inclined, etc. Again, this is another topic, but you know, again, it's to do with social etiquette and adab. You pick your timings when you see that there's an avenue to discuss just how you feel. Dawah is the expression of iman. Anyone who loves a football team doesn't have to go to a Dawah training course of how to explain why he loves Liverpool FC. He knows everything about Liverpool FC. The world is viewed by how well Liverpool FC are doing. So naturally, you talk, it should be Dawah. When you talk, it is Dawah. But unfortunately, what we have is a very robotic relationship with Dawah because it isn't centered within ourselves. I've got 4 seconds now. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.